Firstly, let me thank the Chairman for inviting me here today to speak, highlight and provide a human picture to the sheer devastation the bank have caused me and my family for the past 11 years. I approached the bank in good faith in the hope of reaching agreement with regard to a loan facility for the purchase of a family home. I am a strong family man and live for my children and my one grandchild. I have always prided myself on my honesty and have a huge resistance to dishonesty and wrongdoing. I come from a very much respected Kilkenny family where my late dad was awarded Kilkenny Person of the Year in 2002 for his lifelong dedication to amateur drama and sport. Agreement that was reached in April 2004 between the Bank of Ireland and me for a credit facility equating to a loan to value 90% of the purchase price of a family home to the value of €245,000. The bank provided a discounted variable rate of 2.69% for a period of 12 months, which was welcomed, noting no arrears. The bank had unilaterally retained a higher marginal rate of 1.10% some 12 months after negotiating of the contract, however, applied a rate of 1.60%. The higher marginal rate formed the central aspect of my mortgage contract with the bank, and I entered into in good faith with the expectation that the bank would act in my best interests and honour the central aspect of my mortgage appears to be lost and a lost expectation. 12 months following reaching agreements, the bank business record detailing my business relationship going forward was entered into my mortgage file by a Bank of Ireland financial advisor as the discounted period was nearing an end. This business record identified with my mortgage account a qualifying tracker rate prerequisites, namely a home loan, a loan in excess of €200,000 and a loan to value greater than 60%, as contractually entitling me to an ECB tracker rate in addition to a 1.10% Bank of Ireland Group marginal rate above the ECB rate. The bank had informed me following my complaint and investigation in 2014 that, quote, there is no provision anywhere in your mortgage agreement for a tracker rate of interest. This is untrue and contradicts the business record of my banking relationship with the bank entered on my mortgage file as interpreted by the bank's financial advisor dating back to 2005. The bank set about denying my business relationship in pursuit of increased interest payments and were prepared to rely on redacted documents, prepared to withhold relevant documents, misrepresent terms, and in my case, produce a mortgage deed that triggered a civil procedure to possess my family home. How wrong was I to expect the bank to act in good faith with my best financial interests front and centre when profitability for the bank is at stake? The operational effect of my variable rate mortgage with the bank allowed for positive and negative variable rates to be adopted by the bank and applied to my mortgage contract on foot of ECB announcements during this time. Following the banking crash in 2008 and the removal of tracker rates as a variable option for the Bank of Ireland Group in 2008, positive and negative reflections continued to be applied to my mortgage account, reasonably understood as a tracker mortgage. The bank cannot exercise discretion over ECB variable rates of interest. How wrong was I to expect the bank to honour their side of the bargain following the banking crash? My mortgage agreement fundamentally changed. In April 2010, some 2 years following the banking crash, the bank unilaterally and fundamentally without consent of any description changed my mortgage contract and agreement, whereby they exercised total control over my variable rate mortgage. ECB rates were no longer adopted and applied to my mortgage contract. This totally changed my life. The immediate impact of this was that it generated arrears for the first time in my life on my mortgage, pushing me into an unnecessary default. Several case managers were all adopting the same attitude. Terms were introduced into my mortgage, misrepresenting my contract by bank officials that were not visible in loan offer documentation and were known or should have been known to unilaterally alter the central aspect of my mortgage contract. A common thread adopted by the bank was to deny, defend, delay, and destroy anyone who dared to question. The psychological reign of terror put upon me by the banks had a devastating effect on all aspects of my life. The line adopted by the bank was, at all times when a variable rate applies to the loan, the interest rate chargeable will vary at the lender's discretion, upwards or downwards. What the bank failed to include and consider in that clause 6A in the loan offer was subject to a referencing index in the same loan offer. For the Bank of Ireland to apply the term variable rate in such a manner is unfair within the meaning of the Unfair Terms in Consumer Contracts Directive, and it was utilised to deprive me of a tracker mortgage examination and appeal procedure mandated by the central bank. How and why the bank were retrofitting my mortgage contract with higher rates caused me untold personal life-changing damage. The answer to this is simply to increase their profitability. Over the time period involved with dealing with the banks, my health deteriorated very significantly. I suffered 2 heart attacks, was fitted with cardiac stents, and finally subjected to a quintuple coronary artery bypass graft in 2014. I was left with no other option but to retire from my very well-paid job with the National Ambulance Service, a job I loved. What can only be regarded as a presumption at law, this is that the bank at all times acted honourably and honestly. The court moved to grant a possession order over my family home, despite forensic evidence of overcharging and overwhelming evidence of a tracker mortgage scandal to which I was a part. The court on appeal did not admit my sworn evidence of truth, as it was claimed by the bank to contain legal argument. My contractual business relationship with the bank in 2004 and 2005 was knowingly withheld from me and the entire court process, including my appeal by the bank, despite freedom of information requests prior to the commencement of a summary application made to the court seeking possession of my family home. The court's own motion assessment of unfair contracts sidetracked and cast aside. A GDPR data request in 2019 under Article 15 subsequently discovered for the first time following the court process the existence of a business record and the identity of my mortgage product as a tracker product. The bank determined that my account was not impacted and is not in scope for a tracker mortgage examination, despite the bank's record identifying my mortgage as an ECB tracker variable at 1.10% above the ECB rate in 2005. The bank also chose to ignore the criteria as provided for by the Central Bank of Ireland to determine in-scope accounts. This in turn also deprived me of an appeal process under the examination process. Conclusion: the impact on me personally during this reign of terror with the bank, where the bank defended the indefensible, delayed the inevitable, and denied the obvious, is akin to living a hell on earth to me. You stare financial ruin directly in the face and live with the real and present risk of homelessness, destroying you as a person with the dreaded visit from the sheriff or private security firm to evict you from your family home. Thank you for giving me the opportunity here today to expose this clear and obvious wrongdoing. To the reasonable man, it stands in plain view, a contention the bank will do anything to hide. I hereby call on Francesca McDonagh to honour a commitment she personally gave to the Oireachtas Finance Committee upon her appointment as Chief Executive Officer to the Bank of Ireland Group. Thank you.